We're Hassani and Danielle Pettiford, and we're a real couple with real problems who almost called it quits.
I was very frustrated. I became very disconnected, very jaded and cold.
We have 4 children, going on 20 years of marriage, and we practice what we preach.
Our mission, to change the way couples relate to one another and teach them the skills needed to improve the quality of their relationships. This is the Couples Academy Show.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Couples Academy Show. My name is Hassani. Good to have each and every one of you here this morning. I've been away for a couple days, but I'm going to tell you, Keisha Hines, she was at the helm, doing an amazing job, doing what she does best, giving you great content and information. And so we're going to continue in the series that she was talking about, 11 common patterns of emotional abuse. We're doing part 2 today. I think she gave us a good foundation for what's happening. Now, all of this is a part of this communication conversation, the thing that we still continue to struggle with the most. And so as we go through this, we want you not just to focus on your spouse and how he or she is showing up, but we want you to focus on yourself. Because when you take the time to look at you, knowing that you are the lowest common denominator in your life and in your marriage, things can begin to change. Listen, guys, as you know, we are excited about the fact that we now have our Couples Academy app. Don't be the latecomer. Don't be the Johnny come lately. Get yourself on your phone, whether you have an iPhone, preferred, Android, okay, what can we do? Or any other type of phone that you have, get the app today. It's an experience that allows you to be connected to all of our series, to our services, to our practitioners, to the events that we have, updates, right? Special information, new products, just all types of things to get into the world of Couples Academy. And we would love for you to be a part of that community. So check out this quick video. We'll be right back in just a second.
Welcome to the Couples Academy app. The Couples Academy app is your go-to hub for how to do marriage right. Get started with our app today by perusing our amazing features that conveniently allow you to connect. This app is packed with powerful content and resources to help you grow and stay connected. With this app, you can watch our messages, find marriage resources, watch, listen, and read the real-life stories of restored couples. Sign up for events, read articles and blog posts, stay up to date with push notifications, share your favorite messages via Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or email, and download messages for offline listening. For more information about the Couples Academy app, go to couplesacademy.org.
Get that app, get that app, get that app. I want to give a special shout out to a certain couple who said, you know what, Hassani, maybe you should get an app. Maybe you should get an app. I don't know. It's just a thought. And they started sharing all these great ideas and ways in which it could be used. And I'm like, you know what? That's a good idea. We had one some time ago, but we just weren't ready at the time. And so, you know, it just lets you know that we're open and we listen to what you have to say. Our Couples Academy ambassadors, right? Gonzalez and Jules Smith, you see them, they're a part of the show. They're giving comments. They show up at our Last Chance weekends and in our events. They are a true rock and foundation for what it is that we're doing. Excellent support system, phenomenal marriage. They represent the couple who has been through hell and has come out on the other side, living to talk about it. They're a living testimony of what can happen when you put in the work. And so we just want to give you a shout out. Listen, guys, we're talking about the 11 common patterns of emotional abuse. We're just going to continue this conversation. Let's jump right in. One of these patterns, right? And I'm sure you can relate to this. Threats. Have you been threatened by your spouse, or are you the one who typically threatens? You know, it's a problem. And when you threaten, it creates for an unhealthy environment. It contributes to the toxicity that exists in that relationship. And what happens is it's hard to bounce back when this is a constant behavior that you have to deal with. And threats show up in a number of different ways. You know, the most common threat is the threat to divorce, right? You're always threatening divorce, or you're threatening to leave, because some people don't want necessarily a divorce, but I'm going to leave. I'm going to pack my bags. I'm going to go. Maybe I need to get my own place. Or you know what, I'm going to another room, or I'm going to such and such house for the week. And I need to get away from you. And so this whole threat to leave taps into a fear of rejection and abandonment, particularly abandonment. Like, don't abandon me, right? Don't abandon me. I don't want you to leave. No. So what happens is it becomes a tool of control and manipulation when you're constantly threatening to walk away. And we say this all the time. Those who have been threatening for years, they don't plan on going anywhere. They're using it for their own purposes. And so it's interesting. No matter how many times one is threatened, they always believe this must be the time when you're actually for real. So it constantly keeps them in a state of panic. And it serves you best when you do that to your spouse. But ultimately, it will lead to the demise of the relationship. Then you have the threat of punishment, right? The threat of punishing your partner or withholding things from your partner. And that speaks to a fear of rejection. Like, I'm going to withhold what it is that you want. Oh, okay. So you're not going to act right? Oh, okay. So that's what we're doing now? All right, fine. Go ahead and do that. Because when you're ready to such and such and such and such, just remember this. So now I'm dangling something in front of you to let you know what you can have, what you're not going to get. I'm going to punish you for your bad behavior. And a lot of the things that we do are punitive in our relationships with our spouse. And they're constantly being held up under this fear of, if I don't conform, if I don't accommodate, if I don't yes you to death, I'm somehow going to be withheld from something or punished. And so for fear of that, I'll just comply. Manipulation. Then there's the threat of, I'm going to harm myself if you don't do. If you leave me, I'm going to harm myself. I'm just going to take my life. I'm just going to kill myself. Like, these are the things that we do, and it's manipulative. Or if you do such and such, I'm going to harm you, right? So now that physical aggression, right? That intimidation, that energy, that attitude that we come with. And so all of a sudden our spouse is now in fear for their safety, in fear for their life, and they will conform and go along with for fear of your threats. So either it's verbal threats, it's an emotional threat, it's a physical threat, it's some type of threat. And this is not what you do to the ones that you love. No. The ones that you have signed up for, the one that you said I do to, the one that you are in a covenant relationship with God, that's the one that you threat. This is all part of communication. And what makes communication go wrong? The next negative pattern that we see in emotional abuse, blame. Yep, the blame game. Now, blame is something that many of us are familiar with, particularly if we've gone through any type of crisis, right? Particularly an affair. There's a blame shifting that takes place. And blame, I took some notes because there's different ways blame manifests. And I want to go through a couple of them. Number one, chronic blaming is a form of emotional abuse, right? Being blamed for an act that you did not actually commit is like a verbal beating. Have you ever been accused of something that you absolutely did not do, and they just blame you for it? And in their mind, the story that they're telling themselves is that you did it, and you're like, I didn't do it, but you're blamed for it. It doesn't matter. The blame, the blame me, this is what it says, the blame me, subjected to a regular diet of blame, may start believing that they are responsible for things that were beyond their control or with which they had nothing to do. So even when things just start happening because you've been blamed so much, you start to believe it. You've been told it so much, you start to believe it. I remember watching Sanford and Son, if any of you remember that show, and the son, I remember him saying to his father, he said, you know what? I think he would call his son dummy. And he said, you called me dummy for so long, so many years. I believed that that was my name. I started responding to it because I thought that's who I was. And this is what happens when there's an ongoing repetitive blame where you're shifting responsibility on another person. At some point, they're beat down so much, they're like, you know what? I guess it's my fault. My bad. Sorry. I know I probably had something to do with it. Because they're so beat down, torn, and withered because of the blame. And once again, this is a form of control and manipulation. And what happens is there's feelings of guilt and shame that the blame me starts to take on when they've allowed it to continually happen. Blame does nothing positive for the relationship, but one of the things that it ultimately does, it can kill or reduce the intimacy. Both ways. Because if I'm the one blaming you, the last thing I want to do is be intimate with you. But if you're the one blaming me and your finger's constantly pointing at me and I'm always wrong for everything and I take on all the responsibility, I have no desire to be intimate with you in any way, shape, or form. And when we talk about intimacy, obviously we're not just talking about sex, we're talking about all forms of intimacy. Now I look at you as a threat. Now I look at you as my opposer. Now I look at you as my adversary, my nemesis. And now there's a complete disconnect in this relationship because it's you versus me. It's no longer the team of we, it's the team of me versus you. And what an unhealthy place to be in. Blame. This is what happens. This is what happens when we get in these spaces and don't know how to begin to shift. And what happens is when you've been engaged in a pattern for so long, now you get to a place where you don't know any other way because it's become so normal. It's become habitual. It's become instinctual that it's just the pattern. It's just what we do. It's just your relational dynamic. And then when you try to change it up, it's weird and uncomfortable. And there's something not normal about doing things the right way or the good way. And so what do? We fall right back into what we are familiar with, old patterns and behaviors that do not serve us. Guys, we're talking about the 11 common patterns of emotional abuse. I hope that you're getting something out of this conversation, but what we want to do is go to a quick break. Last Chance Weekend coming up May 13th through the 15th. Make sure you sign up. We have room for you. People are still calling and getting their spot. We want to make sure that you're there. Stay right there. We'll be right back. Hey guys, welcome back. You're watching the Couples Academy show. Let me just give a shout out to my people, to Edmund, It's Robin's World, Lisa Gonzalez, JJ, Manhunt, LaShawn, Miss Jules, Andrea, Torre, I don't have my glasses on. Marilyn, good to see you. All my people from the Moving Forward program are here this morning. All my people from Foundry, good to see you, brothers. Sisters, some of you are in Earth. Good to see you. I'm glad that you tune in. JD Pruitt, good to see you, brother. Michael, JJ, like you're here. And this is what this is all about. This is your daily dose. I told you, this is for you. We're just inviting other people into the conversation because they're not a part of the inner core yet. So they're just they're testing, they're dating, they're seeing what this thing is all about, but eventually they'll come in because they realize, you know what, we need a deeper dive. We need something more because this information is so impactful. It's so good. We need something more. So we encourage you and we welcome you in. Now, to all of you who are commenting about Androids, please stop all the negativity. All the negativity on the feed about Android users and I love my phone and why are you so hard on it? Listen, just get yourself an iPhone, call it a day, and move on with your life. Life will be better if you have the right phone in your hand. JJ says, thank you to Couples Academy. Between your videos, master classes, and therapy, my husband and I are on our way to a better marriage. There is no quitting here. We are 100% vulnerable to each other. Thank you. See, thank you. I was reading that in real time. I didn't even prep that, but I appreciate you for saying that. That's what gives us the fuel. That's what puts the battery in our back to continue to do what it is that we do. When change and transformation takes place in the lives of people, we believe in creating success stories. We have been one ourselves because of the hell that we've been through, and we're constantly adding to our story. And we love the idea that we can add to other people's story and be a part of their journey as well. So I appreciate that. Listen, let's go back into the topic. We talked about threats. We talked about blame. Let's get to the next one. Accusations. Now, this is kind of similar to blame, slightly different, right? So we already talked about blame in the sense of accusing a person of doing something that they did not do, right? So you could see how blame and accusations can be cousins. But then there are accusations that you really have no proof of, you have no evidence of. And a lot of times when you're making accusations, they come from a place of distrust, right? It's a result of trust issues. My trust was broken and violated. And so it's not that easy to just trust you again. And so what happens is, because of what has happened, I now begin to accuse you of doing similar things, the same thing that you once did, because there's a fear that is going to happen again. So the foundation of an accusation is fear. The foundation of an accusation are trust issues, but it's also something called confirmation bias, which is what we've talked about, right? You have a certain bias about your spouse. The bias is you're a cheater, you're a liar, you're a this, you're a that. And so I'm looking for proof to confirm the bias that I have about you. So oftentimes when a person has been unfaithful, there's this deeply embedded belief or fear that they're going to do it again. So they're always being accused of cheating. And so here we go again. Like, babe, I'm not cheating. Listen, I did that, but that's not who I am. That's not what I'm doing. And that's not anything that I ever plan on doing again. But you constantly accuse me of it. And every conversation, every interaction, every relationship is brought into question. And I understand where it comes from, but I want to assure you that I am not doing that. But there's a story that the betrayed spouse is telling him or herself. And they're looking through a lens of suspicion. They're looking through a lens of skepticism. And everything is a potential opportunity to be unfaithful. And so this accusation that constantly comes, regardless of the facts, regardless of the truth, is what the individual struggles with. And it can be a form of emotional abuse if it is not checked. You're always accusing me of lying. I didn't lie. Now, I've done that in the past. right? I have a history of doing that, but I've changed my ways. I'm becoming a different person. I'm getting to the root cause of why I did what I did, but I'm doing something different, and I'm in these programs, and I have this accountability, and I'm tapping into my relationship with God, and I'm trying to become a different version of myself. And when I tell you the truth, you still think it's a lie because of the trust issues, because of the fear that it will happen again, because of the confirmation bias. And so here we see how both individuals in this relationship have to do their necessary work to get beyond the accusation, right? So the one who was guilty of a bad behavior has to be consistent even when the accusations continue to come. You have to be forthright, you have to be steadfast, you have to be immovable, you have to be uncompromising, you have to operate in character and integrity. But for those who do, for those who are, I'm sensitive to your situation because you're still haunted by the ghosts of your relational past, the mistakes that you've previously made. And so the betrayed spouse, you have to get to a point where you begin to release, where you begin to forgive, when you give your spouse another opportunity. You allow them to show up the right way, and you don't hold them subject to the things that they've done in the past by accusing them of doing things that they are just not doing. And truth be told, when all of the emotions subside, and when you're not caught up in your feelings, and when you're having an honest conversation with yourself or with us, you realize, yeah, she's not doing it. He's not doing it. I just have this internal fear or angst or struggle, and I'm battling with things in my mind and in my heart, and I'm throwing these accusations around even though I know that there's no fact, there's no evidence, nothing substantiates how I feel, but I keep doing it. Now, for some of you, it's a struggle, right? It's a knee-jerk reaction that you have. It's an urge that comes upon you, and you got to say it. You got to speak what's on your mind. Some of you, you don't struggle with it at all. You're not struggling to not do it. You like, I'm doing it, and it is what it is, and deal with it and figure it out, and you're going to have to pay, and for the rest of our lives and the rest of our marriage, this is what it's going to be. So what are you staying for? You're staying, so now your new lease on life is to stay in a marriage for the purpose of punishing your partner, for the purpose of always throwing out accusations, for the purpose of always assuming that he or she is lying and cheating. Why would you want to be in a relationship where you believe that your spouse will always and forever be a perpetual liar, a perpetual cheater, will continue to have bad intentions? That's another thing, right? You accuse them of their motive and their intent. They've got bad intentions. So rather than thinking the best of your partner, you choose to think the worst of your partner. Who wants to be stuck in a miserable relationship like that? Yet, this is what we do that keeps us spiraling out of control into an abyss. I know I'm hitting on something. I know there are some of you right now who are experiencing that, who want to break through, who want to get out of the situation, but you just don't know how. I'm going to go to the comments to see what they say. Gonzalez says, I'm so grateful for deliverance from the past relationship that I can truly enjoy my wife and our future. Understanding, investing in the concepts to fortify our marriage is key. We choose life. Life with the Accountability and Couples Academy is strongly encouraged and recommended. Appreciate you, appreciate you. So here's the deal, guys. Listen, we've got to get beyond these accusations, because if we continue to have fear and continue to doubt and to continue to look through a lens of skepticism and all of these different things, it's just going to internally destroy you until there's nothing else there. There's nothing in our relationship. There's no love. There's no connection. There's no intimacy. There's nothing within myself. I feel like an empty shell just existing. I'm like a ghost, right? It's just like, get your life back. Get your relationship back. How do you get it back? You got to get it back by doing the necessary work and really taking the time to bury your past and reignite a new future. We talk about being explorers. An explorer is someone who says the relationship as we know it, because of what we've gone through, is dead. So let's recreate, reestablish a brand new one, and let's not bring the pain of the past into the present, which will then corrupt and corrode our future. So accusations have to go. Now, another pattern, if you will, that people engage in that can be very destructive to a relationship is withholding. Have you ever intentionally withheld something from your spouse? What was it? See, now the obvious withholding, right? When we think about withholding, we're thinking sex and affection, right? That's the alley-oop answer. I'm not going to give you sex because guess what? You don't deserve it. You don't deserve it. I know you like touch. I know you like affection, but don't come up in here expecting none of it. You ain't getting it. You haven't earned it. You got to put in this work. You got to earn it. You haven't paid your dues. You haven't suffered enough. You still need to be punished. So I have you in the doghouse. I have you in the basement. You in the attic. You at the hotel. I don't want you near me. Don't think about it. If you dreaming about touching me, you better wake up and apologize, right? That's where we are at. And so you have couples who are in what we call a sexual desert. They're in an emotional or an affectionate desert, right? We call it the valley of dry bones. There's nothing there because there's an intentional withholding. Now, it's one thing if you're still dealing with struggles, right? You're still triggered and you're just not in a healthy place and you're striving to get there. It's another thing when it's an intentional withholding because you're trying to do it for punitive reasons. Another thing that we withhold is authentic communication. Authentic communication when we intentionally shut down, we intentionally have nothing to say, we engage in a silent treatment, right? We begin to stonewall, we begin to do all the things that don't allow for any type of connection. Now, the person who may have hurt you wants to connect. They want to get closer. They want to form a bond. They want to create intimacy. They want to engage. And you have this thick, impenetrable wall that you've built that keeps him or her from getting anywhere near you. Or you become very controlling in the conversation. And when you talk, you only talk about what you're comfortable talking about, right? It becomes very duty, very task-oriented. Pick up the kids, get dinner, clean this. This broke, fix that, right? It all becomes about duties and responsibilities because that's the only way I'm going to deal with you. Listen, I don't want no relationship with you right now, but we married, so we partners. So you need to do what you need to do to handle your situation. Listen, I need transfer money into my bank account. My bank account is low. Like everything is about what they need to do for you to contribute to particular things, but there's no connection between the two of you. This is real. Because you're withholding that connection, that emotional, intellectual, spiritual, and physical connection, and you're resulting to what? A lifestyle of, listen, we're just going to go half on things. That's all we're doing right now. You over there, I'm over here. I have my social life, you have yours. Don't come too close. And you become like ships that pass in the middle of the night. There's no connection. There's no anything. Yeah. When you deny or rob a person of basic communication, knowing that communication is really the foundation of all relationships, and what undergirds communication? Intimacy. It's a problem. But here's another thing that we oftentimes withhold, and I've seen this, and this is so abusive and so manipulative. When you literally deny your spouse access to their family. Right? And you can't do it by force, but you do it by negative persuasion, right? Where you beat them down so bad because you have a problem with the in-law, they need to have a problem with the in-law. And if you speak to her, or if you speak to him, or if you go to your mother and your father, your sister and your brother, your cousin, you're now betraying me. So who is it? Is either them or me? You see what happens? You see how abusive and manipulative that can be? So now I'm going to separate you and isolate you from your family, from your support system, so that I can have you under my thumb. I can control things. That is abusive. There's got to be healthy relationships that a person has with other people outside of their marriage because it's a part of life. And so when you've gotten to a place where you begin to divide, right, these connections and the source of support and encouragement, what you're doing is you're isolating your partner in order to tear them down. And that's when more abusive behavior begins to take place. So you're withholding natural, healthy connections that person needs. And then You withhold any acknowledgement of what's being done. Now, this is what really hurts, because here I am, I'm putting in the work, I'm praying every day, I'm reading my word, I'm coming home early, not staying late, like right after work, I'm not even connecting with my friends, I'm showing myself to be trustworthy, I'm doing everything around the house, I'm spending more time with the kids, I'm cooking, I'm cleaning, I'm accommodating you whenever I can, I'm willing to have these conversations no matter how long they last, I'm willing to respond to every text, every phone call so that you don't think that I'm, disregarding you. I'm doing all these things, but you won't acknowledge it. And then the minute that I do mess up, the minute that I do have a moment, the minute that I do feel sad and I respond in a way that doesn't accommodate you, that's what you acknowledge. So none of my good is being acknowledged, but all of my wrong, all of my bad, all of my weaknesses, all of my flaws are being acknowledged. You withhold what I need, because for me right now, I'm in a desert place, and any word that you speak of positivity and encouragement and acknowledge is like life to me. It's like water when I'm in a dry place, and I needed to know that I'm on the right path and I'm doing the right thing. But no matter what I do, no matter what type of acknowledgement I seek, you just won't give it. And so it brings me to a point like, what is the point? Why am I doing this? Why don't I just throw in the towel and call it quits and just give up? Because nothing's ever going to change. And no matter what I do, you just won't acknowledge it. And so all you do is accuse me. All you do is blame me. All you do is deny anything that I do. I might as well, like, I'm not doing anything, but you act as if I do. I might as well go ahead and do it again. See what happens? See that? You see? The constant habitual behavior of showing up the wrong way and squeezing out the life of anything that could exist between you and your spouse, your constant punishment, accusations, all the things that you're doing brings this person back to a low. And when people are in a low place in space, when people are now broken and unhealthy, they do broken and unhealthy things. This is why we've got to stop these patterns. Guys, listen. That's our time. We're talking about the 11 common patterns of emotional abuse. I hope that you got something out of this. We're going to continue this conversation tomorrow and wrap up all of the other points that are so critically important for us to unpack. Because, listen, sit down with your spouse and don't weaponize these conversations, but be open and be honest and be willing to learn about how you're showing up. Sit down with your spouse, have these conversations, and figure out how you can begin to course correct to have the relationship that you ultimately want. You're watching the Couples Academy show. Love you guys. See you in the AM. Take care.